Hey, afternoon. Glad to be here. Thanks for inviting me on your platform, Wayne.
Oh
Yeah,
man, this is such a great moment. I am so
sure.
excited that we could be doing this and doing it especially for autism.
That's right.
It's Autism Awareness Month,
Mm.
all month long. Yeah, we got a couple days left, but for us, like someone like myself, who it's no secret, I work with the autistic population. It's a challenge all year long. It's something we do all year long. So I want to welcome you. I'm gonna say JP. That's okay.
Yeah, no problem.
I want to welcome you, JP. Man, it's good to have you. And let me start by just telling the audience you actually own a behavior therapy (ABA) business and company, and you service all ages. You provide more than just artistic service in the community, but I'll let you shed more light on that for us. So, just tell us a little bit about your background, JP, and how your journey took you to where you are right now.
Yeah, sure. Well, yeah, I'd be glad to. It all started back in 2006 as a special education substitute teacher in Gwinnett County. I had the opportunity to work with a class and realize, wow, these students have personalities, they have preferences, and you know, just looking beyond the behaviors that they showed and realizing they were just like everyday people like you and me, and also having family members who also receive special education services. It definitely is a passion to work with this community, this population. Also, further on with my studies after getting my bachelor's in psychology, I ended up getting my master's in special education. I ended up coming across the field of ABA and decided, hey, this is something I want to pursue. After getting my master's in special education, I ended up continuing on and getting my master's in ABA and starting my own agency. So, yeah,
What a journey, man!
yeah,
Wow, that sounds like a lot of school there, JP. I
yeah,
guess
a
that's
whole
what
lot
it
of stuff.
takes. Oh my goodness. Mm-mm-mm. Let me tell you something. That is an amazing accomplishment in its own right, even from an academic perspective. So you fell in love with the special the needs population.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Wow, truly great. That's truly great. Well, tonight I want us to focus a little bit on autism, and from your perspective, what is a great way to tell an audience? Let's say my audience is not aware of what autism is. What's an easy way to try and describe it for our audience?
Um, let's see. An easy way to explain it would be, let's see, a condition where there will be it'd be particularly social disorders.
Yeah,
There will be typical behaviors, such as hand flapping, vocal stereotypies associated with it, and communication disorders as well. But yeah, between the communication and the social disorders, those are the main two
yeah,
that will determine the autism diagnosis, along with some other typical behaviors. Um, and that's usually caught by usually a pediatrician. Around two will be screening for that.
right.
From then they'll look at recommending or referring to ABA agencies like myself that will write an ABA treatment plan and create goals. And a registered behavior technician will be working directly with that client with the supervision of the BCBA, the Board Certified Behavior Analyst, which is my which would be my
Domain.
correct.
Wow. So there's a lot you said there.
Correct.
So,
Yep.
so let's break it down. Socially, you said socially they're socially challenged. So for the everyday person, what are socially challenging behaviors? How can we one kind of identify these with our population, autistic population, and two, how do we how do we in general try to deal with them out in the public?
Well, one of the most common characteristics or challenges with for social behavior would be eye contact. So if you're lacking eye contact, it's going to definitely challenge communication. And so that'll be one of the first areas we want to establish, is creating eye contact, maintaining eye contact. Other areas would be initiating greetings, or responding to greetings from peers. And also being able to, we call it the word manned, but in layman's terms, it would be making requests,
Yeah.
requests from peers, and also sharing. Um, those are important social skills that are needed in order to thrive in the general setting.
Wow. Social. And then communication. Let's break that down a little bit
Go on
more.
all day about communication because that's our specialty at Fairclough Behavior Services. Is going to be in the field of verbal behavior.
Right.
And that's teaching children who have challenges with being able to communicate vocally, to be able to strengthen those skills and be able to communicate from, just syllables, being able to say just syllables and just sounds, to creating words and short phrases, and eventually sentences and extended sentences where we can have conversations. And it can be done vocally, which would be every parent's, ultimate goal there. But with some children, the preference may be to use sign language or a PEX board. So it's up to the client at that point to, if they have a preference for communication, we're going to honor that, because they'll be more motivated to use that form of communication in order to get their needs met, in order to appropriately get to what they need.
Right. Okay. So, you said PEX board just now. And to my audience, if someone is wondering, PEX board, that would be a picture exchange communication system. Do you want to break that down a little bit for the audience in terms of, if a child can't speak, how are you really going to teach them to function in terms of communication?
Yeah, there are multiple forms in order to teach a child how to communicate. But if vocally is not looking like teaching them how to speak is going to be effective, then we'll use what's called the PEX board, picture exchange communication system, where we'll have pictures of things that they like, the preferred items, some of the things that they're typically trying to get access to, and then show them how to appropriately ask for it, whether it's pointing to the picture with one step, which would be our initial process, and then extending it to 2 or 3 or more steps in order to accurately indicate what they want.
Very good, very good. Ladies and gentlemen, we're speaking with Mr. J.P. Fairclough of Fairclough ABA, board certified behavior specialist. And listen, we have a lot to learn right here on how we can interpret and tolerate and just associate with our autistic community. You mentioned there, JP, quite a few things: the social, the communication, the repetitive behaviors and stuff. What I want us to try and have a better understanding and awareness of is, what I want my audience this evening to be able to do is, if they're out tomorrow in the community and they run into members of the autistic population, they can feel comfortable that, you know what, I heard this on the Wayne Hall show, and if we act this way, we can deal with some things. There are so many scenarios of seeing kids out in the community, especially, I say kids because that's the population I work with the most, but there are adults too with autism. But let's say, they're out maybe shopping, maybe just doing their routine things, doing errands in the community, and we might hear screaming, we might see stuff happening. Give us some scenarios and how you would recommend that the general audience look at it, be able to process it, and help our autistic population.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm very excited to talk about this. It's probably a scenario you've heard about before, but I really want to jump into the concepts of positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, and positive punishment, negative punishment. And so I want to split those terms up and share with y'all what we're thinking about in the ABA world. Right. We're talking about positive and negative. We're talking about, when we talk about positive, we're talking about adding something. Like a math teacher, if you're thinking about the positive side, it's going to be plus. We're adding something. And then negative would mean, we're taking away.
Good.
Or just subtracting something, removing something.
Yes.
And so, positive, negative. And the next terms would be reinforcement and punishment. Reinforcement will be an instance or a scenario phenomenon that occurs that you want to happen again. You're like, oh, that was pleasant. Okay, I wouldn't mind that occurring again.
Right.
While punishment would be a phenomenon, an instance that occurs that you're like, I don't want that to happen again,
Right.
or I'm going to avoid that, And so when we split it up that way, we'll be able to understand those terms. So when we say the words positive reinforcement, it means we're adding something to a situation that we want to occur again. We talk about negative reinforcement, something's being removed and that you would like to occur again. When we talk about positive punishment, something's being added to a scenario that you're like, I don't want that to happen again. And then negative punishment would be something being taken away that you would say, I do not want that to happen. So I hope I explained that a little clearly, and just applying it to, being out in the community. And let's say you're out shopping with your child, and, this can be the case for children on the spectrum or even those who are neurotypical.
Right.
And you decide, hey, I want that candy right there in the candy aisle. And you say no. And they decide to start screaming, tantruming, and, they start elevating it, and you start feeling embarrassed. And you're like, hey, I really don't even want to deal with this right now. You just go ahead and get the candy. And so candy, and then you continue on. Well, if we break it down into both perspectives, and let's look at the parent's perspective. Well, what happened was the child began to cry and tantrum, scream. And so what happened was, there was the scenario of, feeling embarrassed because your child's making a scene.
Yeah.
So you want to remove that. You want to remove that kind of stimuli. So what you end up doing is saying, okay, go ahead and take it. And what ends up being negative reinforcement for the parent.
In other words, you have just taught that child that whenever they want their way, they can throw a tantrum.
Oh yeah, I haven't gotten to that.
Oh my God.
See, we usually start with the child's perspective, but I wanted to start with the parent's perspective first.
Got you.
But yeah, let's go look at the child's perspective there. Again, they wanted access to the candy.
Right.
So they started crying. So what they did was add that stimuli of crying to the environment. And in return, the parents said, all right, you know what, you can get it. And in turn, so it ended up being positive reinforcement for the child. So both are reinforcements. Both are like, hey, that happens again, I'm more likely to do that. Except for the parents, we ended up reinforcing the tantruming behavior, which is not a behavior that we want to, we don't want our children to be doing that behavior continuously. But actually, we did reinforce it so that way the next time you go shopping, that child's more likely to tantrum and scream.
Wow.
That stuff.
Wow. That's a classic way of breaking down negative and positive reinforcement. And I know it sounds like a lot, but I'm pretty sure the audience can appreciate where you're coming from, because anyone who's been around kids know they'll go into a store, they'll want to have their own way, they'll want to have stuff. And it might not even be a tantrum. It could be just seeing your child look disappointed, and you're like, man, I hate to see my child look like that, you know.
That's a form of negative reinforcement. The same way, another version of negative reinforcement would be, an alarm clock going off to wake you up in the morning. You don't like hearing that alarm clock, so you hit the snooze button or plug out the clock.
Yeah.
To remove it. So that's negative. Another example of negative reinforcement.
Wow. Thank you so much, man. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Mr. J.P. Fairclough of Fairclough ABA, an agency that's providing services in our community in terms of applied behavior analysis treatments, especially for our autistic population. Really a pleasure to have him on this evening. Great information here. I want to use this next segment of the conversation to talk a little bit about your business. You explained earlier your journey to where you are in terms of you started as a substitute teacher in a Gwinnett County public school, fell in love with the autistic population. That sounds very familiar, by the way.
Yeah.
I know somebody.
I'm the only one on this broadcast that's put it that way.
And then as you studied more, you got deeper and deeper into it, and you started your own agency. Tell us a little bit about Fairclough ABA.
Yes, we're a small agency that we provide ABA therapy in the home environments, also in the school environments, using a variety of curriculums with our main one being verbal behavior, using the VB map. We also have a number of other curriculums we use for clients that might have moderate to severe autism, where we target essential living skills, and that resource would be the Essentials for Living. And we also have resources that we use for our clients that are school-based, where we're teaching derived relational training, which is a whole other concept that we'll have to save for another time.
I know. Okay.
And yeah, and then we have another curriculum that we use for our more adolescent to adult clients as well. Assessment of functional living skills. And so, yeah, our goal is to be able to treat and create individual treatment plans for any kind of client across various abilities on the autism spectrum.
Great, great, great. What's your website?
Our website is www.fairaba.com. It's www.fairaba.com.
And is there a phone number that anyone who wants to share this information or call?
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
It is 770-608-7317.
All right, 1 sec. Let me get a pen that writes. Let's repeat the number. 770
608
608.
17. And then if you want to post my information on the YouTube screen,
Yeah.
the information and all that, any additional information, you can do that.
Okay. So 770-608-6317.
7317.
7317.
Correct.
All right. That's the number to call, ladies and gentlemen. Oh my goodness. Fairclough ABA. So you are providing this service by way of your agency.
Correct.
As far as autism goes, the average person will probably see it at some point in their lifetime. Mm-hmm. There are some things that, can help a general population to grasp the way of processing. For instance, if we're out in the community and we come across these individuals, how comfortable should we be to greet them, to interact with them?
Definitely. You want to, if there's a caretaker there, I would definitely check in with the caretaker. But if someone comes up to you just independently, want to introduce themselves, go ahead and, you can respond. You should feel comfortable responding. It probably a skill that they're working on, a social skill that they're working on with their teacher or with their their BCBA if they have one.
Okay. Wow. I'm gonna.
And
yes.
Then I do like that there are programs out in the community that are in schools like Best Buddies that do expose and pair children on the spectrum or with special needs with typical peer, and they're able to do various activities. I'm also I'm hearing of other there are a lot of other opportunities, including sports as well, where with Special Olympics they have a number of special needs kids on the field with neurotypical peers that they're also paired with, that are in their same high school. So that way when they see each other in the hallways, they can, socialize and stuff. So there's some really good programs out there that help with that.
Wow. Mm-hmm. All right. Let me do one of my favorite little parts here. Ladies and gentlemen, it's again Mr. JP Fairclough. Let me just see how my audience is interacting here. Let's see here. Someone just said, wow, very interesting. DJ Beast, hi. Very interesting. We can apply to all children. Absolutely, we can apply to all children. Janice O'Shea, hello, Janice. Janice says, exactly. Not only for kids with disabilities, positive and negative reinforcement. And Janice also says, love that backdrop, guest. Ha
There's a logo right there.
Your backdrop is speaking volumes. And thanks for posting, Janice. 770. Let me pin that so the audience can see. that information as we go. All right. Of course, it's going to give me a hard time to pin because I'm probably not in there as the Wayne Hall show. I'm probably in there as Wayne Hall. All right. Great information, Mr. LG, Leroy Griffith. Welcome. All right. And I want to shout out everyone checking out the interview. Christine Rendell says, very informative interview. Peter Folks, this is interesting, says, that's how parents used to be when I was growing up in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Natalie Lawrence says, I love this. So shout out also to my viewers on Instagram, by the way. Great information. Thank you so much for making time, sir, to share with our audience about just ABA's, your ABA services, but in particular, autism. Let's take the next few minutes and just talk a little bit more about some of the, regular questions I get about autism. For instance, I've always had to tell young neurotypical kids that autism is not something contagious. We don't need to scorn our friends. We don't need to, be standoffish. I know it's scary to see behavior that's not normal. What advice can you give along this line?
When it comes to some of those behaviors that occur, of course, they are different, but, we have our own automatic behaviors that we may do ourselves, but, we have the awareness to do those private events, in private, whereas with our children on the spectrum, they may not conceptualize it, or may not care about the social aspects of performing those behaviors. So if it's a behavior that is such as like hand flapping, if that's something that they decide to do at that time, it doesn't require, interaction with a peer. And so if they want to do it, they'll go ahead and do that behavior. Our goal when it comes to behaviors like that, and it kind of depends, because behaviors like hand flapping aren't really the number one behaviors that we want to target to reduce. We want to target behaviors that are more severe, okay, the self-injurious behaviors and stuff. So we do need to contemplate and see whether or not that is a behavior worth changing, because we do want to respect their individuality. They're their own persons, just like you and me, and they should be able to express themselves the way that they see fit.
That's such a great point, because a lot of frustration can sometimes lead to persons being aggressive towards the autistic individual. And one thing we always have to keep in mind is their integrity, because that has to come before everything else. But it's so easy to just go, oh man, and be, frustrated and yeah. Do you, in your practice, what do you recommend for parents? Do you actually do that too? Because one of the things I've observed in the autism community is that sometimes the parents are at their wits' end. So other than calling Fairclough ABA, what are some of the suggestions for parents? And do you provide that?
Yes, just for parents, we do have parent training goals for each of our parents. We target about 2 skills. And throughout that time, we will have a competency questionnaire that we will have to fill out in order to keep track of, whether they're making gains on those goals, whether or not they're keeping up with data collection of those particular goals. Other resources that I'd like to share, if I could get on the share screen. Do I have access?
Yes, go ahead and share.
It says host disabled participants screen.
Oh my goodness.
Let me access real quick.
Make sure you have that, sir.
Yeah, because I have a really good resource that I'd like for us to review, and then we can end up putting this website, we can end up pinning it as well. It's a variety of toolkits that cover a whole lot of areas, that way any parents that have any questions will be able to use this resource
Please try to share again, please.
All right.
Let's see if it works.
Okay, yep, I see it.
Okay, awesome. He's sharing. There you go.
So This particular website is linked with Autism Speaks. And here's the link here. It has a variety of toolkits that we could use when I use this when I'm meeting with new parents, or if we have any particular things that we're trying to target in particular behaviors, and it's just an additional resource to help support the parents. For instance, here we have a 100-day toolkit for newly diagnosed families on like what to do. If you guys can see.
Is there any way to have have it shift a little bit? That would be probably to your left. The end of the sentences are not, for some reason, showing on my
Oh,
broadcast stream, but we can see the main bulk of the info.
okay.
All right.
But yeah, it's
Maybe shrink your screen a little bit.
okay. Let me see.
Take the zoom down just a notch.
All right, how's that?
We still can't read to the end of the sentences, but we can see the actual websites and
Mhm.
topics. So I think that's great.
All right, and I gotta scroll through here. Even has guides for clinicians providing feedback to families affected by autism, friends guide, grandparents guide, guide for managing things like constipation, parents guide for
Wow.
ABA, parents guide to autism, toilet training. That's another skill that we usually apply for our younger clients that are not toilet trained yet. A siblings guide to autism, a toolkit for advocacy, introductions to behavioral health treatments,
Hmm.
even in Spanish and different
Wow.
languages. Uh,
Awesome.
the area of Asperger's syndromes, high functioning autism, area of autism medication, safe and careful use, autism friendly youth organizations, even how to, for drawing blood, parents guide and a provider's guide for that, challenging behaviors, uh,
Wow.
community-based skills assessments, dental professionals toolkit,
Ooh.
yeah, across a variety of areas, even for employment, exploring feeding behaviors in autism, financial planning toolkits, first concerns to action, haircut training guide, including EEGs. Again, a variety of areas that that we have available to share with our families and the community. Another resource I'd like to go over real quick. You might
Can
get
you shrink that? Just shrink that a little bit. Yeah,
oh,
shrink that. Make it smaller in terms of the zoom, not bigger, smaller. Yeah, so it
oh,
fits more on the screen. All right. So, yeah,
yeah.
continue. There you, okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's not really
Oh,
following my
it's not allowing
there.
it. Okay, no
But
problem. We get the gist of it. We're
okay.
seeing the main bulk of it.
Yeah, and then for any parents who are interested in training on how to become an RBT, just understanding the basics, introductory principles, such as positive negative reinforcement. We do have this free RBT training course, this online training course that I'd like for you guys to check out. And it's through the Autism Partnership Foundation.
Right.
Again, it's free. So we definitely would like to share this. I have some parents on my caseload who've completed this resource here, just again to understand more about the importance of the principles of ABA, the importance of the data collection and stuff.
Right. Right.
And that's it.
Awesome stuff.
Sure.
Thank you. I did not expect a presentation, but that's Mr. JP Fairclough. The man is thorough. I have some questions here before we wrap up. Can adults develop autistic behavior?
Well, autism is a developmental disability, so it's gonna be a condition that should have been present or should have been shown at least by, and I can't even, I'd have to go ahead and look at my research to say the exact date or the exact age, but at least by age 8 there should be symptoms, or there should be, yeah,
Yeah.
you should be able to tell something either socially, whether it's if they have Asperger's, they have social
Right.
things going on. So yeah, but those would be things that have been a problem throughout
Early on.
throughout early on
Yeah.
segment.
And another question that was from DJ Beast. Another question is from Janice O'Shea. Now this gets to one point. One of the you just showed us some resources, but she's asking, how can the public in general be educated on how to respond or not to this particular behavior? I guess she was referring to an example earlier, but
Okay.
resources, I guess, is where she's aiming here.
Oh, well, yeah, I would go back to those toolkits that I shared. Those guides to, if you're a parent or even a friend of someone on the spectrum, I'd say that would probably be the best toolkit to review to see how to respond to those that you may interact with on the spectrum.
Very good information.
Mhm.
All right. So those are some great resources. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else, sir, that I might not have touched on that you would like to share with us before you go?
No, I think that was it. Definitely looking forward to continuing any further discussions on another show. If you guys have any other questions, any follow-up questions.
I'm sure. You know what? I'll be pushing autism all year long, and it will be my pleasure to
Do it.
have Fairclough ABA and you in particular, sir, come and share your wonderful knowledge with us. In fact, before you go, I found this very interesting. Says Christine Rendell, my daughter was only talking to me yesterday that her best friend has a little boy with autism and has outbursts of swear words, and the granddaughter is copying him. Her granddaughter is copying him, and she was trying to work out how to handle it. Ooh.
Ooh, yeah, that's
Call Fairclough ABA. That's
yeah,
gonna take all
call
night.
that one.
Call Fairclough ABA 770-608-7317.
That's
Oh
correct.
my goodness. JP, anything you want to say before you go?
No, thanks. I think that was it. I'm honored and glad to have the opportunity to be able to talk about the field of ABA on your platform, man. You're doing a great thing. Just big ups.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, JP is Jamaican. The man I yard, you hear him say? Big up.
No,
All right, sir. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. You have a fantastic evening.
thank you.
Continue to do great things to our community, man.
All right, good night.
Fairclough ABA, look them up, ladies and gentlemen. Bye, JP.